Hello everyone and welcome back to the Gentle Dog Trainers channel. I'm your host Olivia DeSantos and I'm so excited for this video. I'm sure that you can tell because we're going to be talking about houseplants and dogs, specifically which houseplants are safe for dogs and which are toxic to dogs. And it marries the two of my biggest passions in the world, dogs and animals in general, and houseplants. So I'm really excited for this video. If you like this sort of content, then please do subscribe to the Gentle Dog Trainers channel. We talk about all things dogs so that you can raise happy, healthy and well-behaved dogs. Hit that little notification bell as well so that you never miss an upload, and let's dive into the content. So before we begin, I have quite a little range here of houseplants, and I'd be really interested to know which of them you think are toxic to dogs and which of them are pet safe. And I will be telling you all the ins and outs of which are toxic and which aren't in this video, so stay tuned. But do comment below what your guesses are. First, we'll talk about the toxic plants for dogs. Then we'll talk about how to spot if your dog has been poisoned and what to do. Then we'll talk about pet safe plant varieties. I have a lot of them around me. And then we'll talk about how to stop your dog from eating your plants, whether they are toxic or not. So stay tuned right to the end so that you get all of that information. First, let's start with the really toxic plants. And one of them is the one that I am caressing here. This is a Dieffenbachia. It's also commonly known as a dumb cane, and the reason that it's called dumb cane is because of the traditional meaning of the word dumb, meaning that you can't speak. So if your dog ingests any of these leaves, or if you ingest any of these leaves, it will make your tongue swell, it will irritate all of your mouth, and sometimes close your throat and asphyxiate you. So dumb canes are very toxic to everyone, so this should be kept away from your dogs, absolutely, but definitely any children as well, and you should definitely handle it with care if you do have it at home. Another toxic houseplant that's very common is aloe vera. I don't have it to hand here, but I will leave a photo up here. Aloe vera is a very common houseplant for its medicinal properties, but it is quite toxic to dogs if they ingest it. It will cause quite mild poisoning. It's not the most poisonous on this list, but definitely take care if you think that your dog has eaten any of your aloe vera. Another common houseplant genus that are toxic to dogs are lilies. So peace lilies, calla lilies, these are toxic to dogs. They are mildly poisonous and they probably won't kill your dog, but they definitely will cause some damage. Another toxic houseplant that I do have here is the zizi plant. So zizi plants are actually moderate to mildly toxic to dogs. They will cause quite a lot of irritation and vomiting if your dog does ingest any of the zizi plant, so you definitely want to keep this away from your dogs. So another one is any type of pothos. So golden pothos, marbled pothos, those are very popular varieties as hanging plants. They are quite toxic to your dog as well. They are mildly to moderately toxic. However, because they are hanging plants for the most part, most people find that their dogs are not able to reach it, so they don't really have a huge issue bringing in pothos into their homes. But it is worth bearing in mind that it is a toxic plant. The next one is Sterilitzia, which you will know better as birds of paradise. I do have a birds of paradise at home. It's looking a little bit worse for wear. It's outside. But this is another one that is toxic to dogs. It is mild to moderately toxic, but you should still act if you think that your dog has eaten any of your birds of paradise plant. That includes the flowers. Next on the list is philodendron. So philodendron is a huge genus of houseplants and very popular, particularly the patterned ones, and they are unfortunately toxic to pets. So make sure that they are kept well away from your dogs and cats. Another toxic houseplant is the begonia. I don't have a begonia here today, but I will have one day. And they are quite toxic to your dogs. They are probably one of the more toxic ones that are on this list. So make sure that you definitely keep your dog away from them. However, because of the texture of begonias and the fact that they tend to have quite colourful leaves, quite furry leaves, most dogs are not that interested in eating them. They're not particularly, leafy looking or feeling. So you will find that most dogs will probably just ignore begonias, but it's worth bearing in mind that they are quite toxic. Another toxic houseplant that I have in front of me here is the Dracaena. So this is my Dracaena fragrans, but Dracaenas come in lots of different shapes and sizes. It's still a little baby, it's a little baby tree. And this one is another one that is quite toxic to dogs. It is moderately toxic to dogs, moderate to high depending on how much they ingest. So if you think that your dog has eaten any of the leaves, like nibbled any of the leaves or any of the stem, then please do act, because it could cause quite a lot of harm. Another toxic houseplant that I do actually have, and let's see if I can actually lift her up. This is my Monstera. This is my Monstera deliciosa, very common houseplant, very beautiful houseplant. I'll insert some footage of her a bit later, but this is another one that is quite toxic to dogs. I'd say moderately toxic to dogs, probably quite serious. So make sure that your dog does not take a chunk out of these beautiful leaves. But aren't they so cool? It's such a cool plant. Another plant that is toxic to dogs is the snake plant. So snake plants are usually kept in the home because they are unkillable plants and they are really striking with these cool yellowing on the leaves. But they are unfortunately quite toxic to dogs. They're quite toxic to humans as well, to be honest. So please make sure that your dog doesn't take a chunk out of them. But again, because they don't smell of anything, they're quite hard and they're quite spiky. Dogs don't tend to be that interested in snake plants, but they are toxic. Another plant is the alocasia. So the alocasias come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. My alocasia is huge and I couldn't actually get it into frame, but I'll take some footage a bit later. But some alocasias are this big, some of them are as big as mine, and unfortunately they are toxic to dogs. They are mild to moderately toxic to dogs if they ingest any of the leaves. Of course, if they ingest part of the stem of an elephant ear like mine, which is really large, and that's quite a huge dose, and it will cause much more damage than one of the smaller alocasia, but it's worth noting that it is a toxic plant. Finally, on my toxic houseplants list that I don't have with me is the jade. So jade plants, or Crassula ovulata, also known as the money plant in many cultures. That one is also quite toxic to dogs. Again, because it's more of a succulent, they aren't particularly interesting to your dog, so I wouldn't be too afraid of having them around your dog, but we will talk about prevention a little bit later on in the video. So let's say that you love houseplants and you love your dogs, and unfortunately you've brought home a super toxic houseplant and you don't want to give it back, and your dog unfortunately manages to get hold of it, takes a bite out of it, starts to show signs of toxicity. What are you looking for? So if your dog has been poisoned, they will display these 6 signs. They'll be weak and tired, fatigued. They'll show signs of dizziness. They'll vomit. They may have diarrhea. They may have swelling and irritation around their mouth and tongue, and they may have excessive drooling and saliva production. And so if you notice any of these signs, then please do investigate, see what's happened, see if it's just an upset stomach from food, or if they have eaten one of your houseplants. If you've seen that they've eaten one of their houseplants, get them to a vet as soon as you possibly can, because this type of toxicity can cause a lot of internal damage. Okay, so as you've seen, there are a lot of the plants around me that are toxic to dogs. So what are the ones that are actually safe for dogs. And to fear not, there are lots of cool genus of houseplants on this list too. So let's start with the spider plant. So my spider plant is looking a little bit sad. It's had a small injury here, so try to ignore that. But the spider plant is a really cute little plant, quite a nice one to grow, and it is pet safe. It's human safe actually. We could eat it. It won't taste very nice, but it's not toxic. So this is one that you can definitely have fun with. There are ones that are definitely more, full and illustrious than mine. Mine is still a baby. It's just a cutting. But if you like houseplants, then give this one a go if you want a non-toxic houseplant. Another one which is a bit more impressive, let's say, is that mean to say, is the Calathea. So the entire Calathea genus is non-toxic to pets. It's completely pet safe. The Calathea are very difficult to look after. They're kind of like my favorite genus, which is why I keep trying with them. Mine are doing okay. This one in particular is doing very well because it's new. But this is a Calathea wortsweetii, or jungle velvet is the easier thing to call it. And this is a prayer plant, meaning that it closes its leaves at night and it opens them during the day. So this genus, if you like them, if you can get on with them, if you can keep them alive, is non-toxic to your dog. Another genus that is not toxic to dogs are orchids. So orchids are non-toxic and they are completely beautiful. So say that you get tempted by one of the Phalaenopsis orchids at the supermarket, or if you're a collector of orchids, then fear not. If your dog happens to take a fancy of one of your beautiful orchids, they will not be harmed. They are completely non-toxic to dogs. Another houseplant that is non-toxic is the African violet. So I don't have an African violet with me, but they are super pretty plants and they do give off nice flowers, and they are surprisingly non-toxic plants. So they're a really nice one to keep in the home. Another non-toxic house plant is this little ditty here. This is the Echeveria, or a succulent essentially. So succulents are non-toxic to dogs. I am less crazy about succulents. This is just a cutting, so we're just trying to get it to be its full self. But if you are into your succulents, then that's great, because your dog will be completely unharmed if they do take a chunk out of it. Another genus that is non-toxic to dogs are Pileas. So Pilea peperomides is the one that people know the most. That's a Chinese money plant. You also have the friendship plant. I only have a cutting of it here, but this one is super pretty, and I'll show you like the full size of it. The friendship plant is completely non-toxic to your dog and is a really nice hanging plant. So if you want something that's a little bit different to like a pothos, which is toxic, then the friendship plant or the Pilea Moon Valley is a great option. Another good trailing plant, if you want trailing plants, are peperomias. So I have a couple of peperomia. This is a peperomia raindrop, so a polybotria, but a raindrop peperomia is the better name for it, and it is completely non-toxic and it's super, super cute. This one doesn't trail, but there are varieties of peperomia that do trail. So if you want, again, like a replacement for a pothos that is toxic to dogs, then you could get a peperomia. There are lots of cool peperomia out there, or you could just get a small cute one like this one, and yeah, completely non-toxic to dogs if your dog decides to take a bite. Finally, on my list of pet safe plants is the Areca palm. Oh dear. So this is a palm. This is a baby palm. It's not very old yet. It's still growing through. But this palm is wonderful at clearing. But this palm is really good at purifying the air, and it's a really nice houseplant to have around if you want to have something that grows to be really big. I'll show you a photo of what it can grow to be. And completely non-toxic to dogs. So this is a pet safe plant that is just so fun, just a joy to have around. So I want to end this video with how do you stop your dog from actually eating your houseplants? And the truth is that many dogs won't be that interested in houseplants, particularly adult dogs. They just won't be that fascinated by them because houseplants don't tend to smell that fragrant or have flowers and things like that. And if they do flower, they're also not that interesting. So many adult dogs in particular are not really that interested in eating your houseplants. They're more actually likely to eat your external plants, so your garden plants or any plants in parks and things like that. You're far more likely to find a danger there than at the home. But if you have a puppy, and we've discussed this in a previous video, which I will link in the iCard above me, that puppies like to eat everything, right? They like to put everything in their mouths and they will just explore and munch away. So if you find that your puppy is taking a shining to your houseplants, whether they are toxic or non-toxic, then it's all about having gentle training techniques. So if you catch your dog playing around with the houseplant or attempting to eat it, you start with a firm no. And it needs to be a very firm no in your voice. You can also employ distraction techniques. So say, no, come here. So that you have told them the direction that that is not the right thing to do, but they should come to you in that moment. And that will provide a little bit of distraction. Some people use certain sounds, for example, like a squeaky toy or something to distract your dog and take their attention elsewhere and off your plants. That's also a very effective thing. But if you catch your dog maybe mid-crunch of one of your plants, which hurts me so bad, but if you do, then say no and either distract them with something else to chew on, which is a really good thing to do. So replace your plant with maybe a chew toy or something, or distract them, take them away and reward them for coming to you, reward them for that recall skill. I hope this video was really interesting for you and a slightly different environment and slightly different format of video, so I hope that you enjoyed it. Might be a bit of a long one, but give this video a like if you enjoyed this video. I've been Olivia De Santos for the Gentle Dog Trainers channel, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.